In today's show, the Blazers host their final pre-draft workout. Shaedon Sharpe isn't making Team Canada, and what are the Bulls doing? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine, make it your first listen, and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we've got a classic Friday smorgasbord for you. Shaedon Sharpe, not on the Canadian national team, plus some updates for other international Blazers you can watch. Blazers held their final pre-draft workout, their final public pre-draft workout. Maybe they'll do some sneaky stuff next week, but that's a wrap for the pre-draft workout season as far as we will likely know. And then we'll close the show asking the age-old question, what are the Bulls doing? The Bulls made a trade today that I think has implications for the Trailblazers, and on first blush, not exactly good ones, but perhaps the rosy part is maybe they're meaningless. Let's start with the international news first. It was announced earlier this week that Shaedon Sharpe is not going to make Team Canada. This is not a big surprise. If you're listening to this podcast, I had speculated as much, but speculation from me is not the same as confirmation from Team Canada. When they announced the roster this week, they announced a training camp roster. They were going to hold some pre-Olympic tryouts, pre-Olympic practices before finalizing the roster in Toronto, and then the Olympics don't start till the end of July, but there's some warm-up tournaments in mid-July in various parts of the world that teams are attending as they sort of make their way towards Europe, make their way towards Paris for the games, and Shaedon Sharpe has been left off the team. He will participate in the training camp, but he will not have an opportunity to make the roster. Him and Bennedict Mathurin, Pacers second-year player, Pacers in between, just completed his sophomore season for the Pacers. Bennedict Mathurin is in the same boat, is invited to training camp and will get to compete in what should be probably a pretty competitive training camp, but will not get to play. I think this is kind of a bummer for Shaedon Sharpe in the grand scheme, but it is not that big of a surprise. Canada is freaking good at basketball. That's a good basketball playing nation. If you're listening to the Blazers broadcast, Kevin Calabro, Blazers broadcaster, pretty much highlights every Canadian player on the court and says that they're one of the 10 best Canadians. Shout out to you, Casey. Casey's got a list of about 25 players that are the top 10 Canadians in the NBA. That's more of a Lamar Hurd joke, but I agree with Lamar. Yeah, he's right. It's a long list. It's a long 10. But Canada's good. Like, they beat the U.S. at the FIBA World Cup in the bronze medal game last year to claim a spot on the podium and kick the underachieving Americans right up on out of there. The Americans not with the sort of full complement of stars they often bring, but still, like, that group beat them. And on that group, that Canadian group included just players that would be ahead of Shaedon Sharpe in the sort of guard wing rotation. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that's not even a question. RJ Barrett, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, those Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all five of them more productive players so far in their careers than Shaedon Sharpe has been. And then you add this year's invites, which include Jamal Murray and Andrew Nembhard coming off a pretty monster little run. It's like, yeah, that's 7 guards that are better than Shaedon Sharpe. Here's the real bummer. It's not that Shaedon Sharpe isn't on the team, right? It's not that Shaedon Sharpe is not going to make the team and not going to go to Paris. Like, it would have been really fun to watch him and, like, quite frankly, pretty good content for the podcast. Dang it. But like, the bummer is that it's not it's not a snub. What you root for here is for Shaedon Sharpe to be like left off the team and to be able to be rightfully outraged, right? But he just didn't play enough in year 2. He just didn't participate enough in year 2 to feel like, oh no, he really deserves it. His Shaedon Sharpe is so much more potential than production to this point in his career. He's had some moments where he's been really good, but he's you miss 50 games in year 2, and the other guys play really well into the playoffs or are more senior players. Corey Joseph, and importantly not invited to this training camp, a longtime NBA veteran who's out of league for a little bit, but and part of the Canadian national team. Like, and you're just when you're looking at this group, throw in Andrew Wiggins in there too, although he hasn't really participated for Team Canada, so he doesn't have the seniority, but he certainly has the NBA seniority. Like, there just wasn't a spot for Shaedon on this team. Sharpe was not cleared to play at the end of the year, but there was some, the Blazers said he got close. Billups said that he was close. So like, here we are now in June. The season ended in the first week of April. Shaedon Sharpe's ready to go health-wise. He's not playing because he's just not good enough to make a very competitive roster, and that's a bummer. It's a bummer. He's not going to be the only dude, Blazers guy that you could see. Blazers guy, Blazers dude. Blazers player that you could see potentially in the upcoming Olympics. I think the big one coming up here is that DeAndre Ayton and the Bahamas are going to have a chance to qualify for the Olympics. This is a pretty fun little team. Klay Thompson is going to go practice with the Team Bahamas as they ramp up for a qualifying tournament to make the Olympics. The Bahamas with DeAndre Ayton and Eric Gordon and Buddy Hield beat Argentina in a tournament last summer. That allowed them to make this qualifying tournament where you win and you get in, and they've got a chance to do so. That's going to take place July 2nd through 7th in Spain. Klay Thompson not going to participate with the Bahamas, with Team Bahamas, but he's going to practice with them leading up to it. His dad is famously born in the Bahamas, but Klay Thompson has played for the Team USA. He's won a gold medal, Team USA in 2016. But he's going to play a little bit of basketball. It's a fun team that's ramping up, and DA, who was pretty darn good in their qualifying tournaments or their first qualifying tournament to get to this stage. Now it's a chance to get this team into the Olympics, which would be quite a feat. So in that tournament in July, it's in Spain, there are 6 teams. So along with the Bahamas, Angola, Finland, Lebanon, Poland, and Spain. Finland's not going to have Lauri Markkanen. He's not going to participate in this summer's activities due to injury, which stinks because fun player, right? But so that probably means the Bahamas is the second best team in this tournament. So they have to, they got to win some games, obviously, but like they got to beat Spain in Spain, win another upset. They beat Argentina in Argentina, a classic powerhouse. They beat Spain in Spain. They make the freaking Olympics. That'd be pretty fun. Easy to root for. I'm not 100% sure about the television opportunities with those games, but as we get a little bit closer, first week of July, if they're available, which I bet they'll be streaming somewhere on like FIBA's website, I'll make sure to tell you where to find them so we can watch DA try to make the Olympics held. The opening ceremony is like the last week of July. It's like the last week of July, and then into August is when the Paris Olympics are going down. And the last two Blazers that you can see in the Olympics, Team Australia that has already qualified, Matisse Thybulle and Duop Reith. Australia has only named, just like Team Canada, has only named its 17 players that are going to go to training camp before they pare down the roster to Olympic size. But Reith and Matisse Thybulle have been a member of the senior national team together, and reading the press release from Team Australia, they're in. They're in. Don't worry. They're in. Those dudes are going to play. Duop was starting a little bit. Matisse Thybulle's kind of in and out of him and Josh Green kind of bouncing around spots. Boomers are pretty competitive. They're kind of the golden ages maybe of Boomer basketball is maybe 3-4 years behind us, but that's a competitive team. I think a chance to see maybe an upstart Bahamas team with DeAndre Ayton and Duop Reith and Matisse Thybulle in the Olympics could be fun. The U.S. is sending the whole squad. They're probably going to roll, but I think Olympic basketball is pretty good. It's given us some fun moments here and there, so something to keep an eye on. Okay, Blazers held their final pre-draft workout, at least their final public pre-draft workout of the cycle on Thursday at their practice facility. Let's talk about who was there and kind of what we learned from the public pre-draft process. Join me in that second segment, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the number one daily fantasy sports app in America with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you versus the numbers. There's no sharks, there's no field. It's just you versus the stat projections set out by PrizePicks. All you do is pick more or less on a 2 to 6 player stat projection. You watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Turn $10 into $1,000. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks got you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineups hit, or get your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Friday. So go get in on the fun. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONNBA on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, let's keep it rolling. Blazers held a draft workout today, their final public workout of the season. Now, this was somewhat of a different draft cycle because the Blazers had a lot of private workouts that then became not so private when they were reported that they actually happened. So we kind of know that folks like Ron Holland and Matches Buzelis and Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey and Tijan Salah have all worked out for the Blazers in various capacities, either in solo workouts or in group workout settings. But they've publicized a handful of others. Most of the public workouts have been second round and undrafted type guys, which makes sense, right? Who is it easier to get into the building? It's guys who are like trying to fight to make it in the league, right? But people who are battling for a job interview this time of year. In addition to there isn't as much when you're at 7 and 14. Maybe there are prospects and agents of those prospects who don't want their players to be viewed to be, we're working out as low as 14, right? And there is a little more political stuff when you're not way up high in the draft about who you can get in the building, and it's not meaningful except for the people who are like represent the players. I don't think it's particularly meaningful for us as the sort of viewing public to think like, this was private, so it means more than the public ones. It's just kind of how it works. The Blazers, according to my handy-dandy spreadsheet, worked out 37 players in their public workouts. Among the highest rated, certainly I think consensus highest rated prospect that had a public workout was Dalton Knecht. He worked out by himself in the gym by himself. A couple people who've been on this podcast, folks from the world of no ceilings, Cody Tabla and as well as Tyler Metcalf have both said that they heard that Dalton Knecht killed it in the workout. So there you go. But solo workouts, that's, he's like a top 10 lottery prospect. Jared McCain, likely to go in the top 20. Tyler Smith and Khalil Ware, who are probably fringe lottery, but first round prospects. Tristan Da Silva, who's been invited to the green room, is going to be a first round prospect. Kyle Filipowski from Duke, who's likely to be a first round prospect. Maybe a slip late first round, but he could go, in the teens for sure. Mid to late first round type of guy. They've had some players that are, I think, certainly going to get drafted. I think depending on who likes Jalen Tyson of California, he could be as high as a first round guy. Harrison Ingram and Keyshawn Johnson are fairly likely to get drafted. Nikola Jurisic from Mega's fairly likely to get drafted. But for the most part, it's been 6 first round targets and 30 second round guys, including today's workout, which were 6 more players that are in the building. The first one, I'm going to screw up the name because my Western brain does not do Chinese names well, but Yang Shi Q, who's playing for the Guangzhou Lions in the Chinese league. Quinn Ellis, who's playing in a British point guard, who's playing in the Italian league for Trento. Tristan Enaruna, who's from Cleveland State, Oso Ighodaro from Marquette, Naquan Tomlin from Memphis, and Bryson Warren, someone who went to the overtime elite and then plays for the Sky Force in the G League, the Miami Heat affiliate in Sioux Falls. None of these guys are likely to go in the first round. Most of these are undrafted types, players who are not in, top 100 boards. The name to know in this group is Oso Ighodaro from Marquette. His teammate is likely to be seems like his teammate's likely to be a Phoenix Sun, Tyler Kolek from the point guard from Marquette. But I think there's some limited upside with Oso because of maybe some the shooting and athleticism questions. But he's like big. He measured 6'9.5" barefoot at the combine. Doesn't have long arms, 6'9.5" with 6'11" wingspan. So it's not like he's a plus length or anything like that. But he can really pass. And I like a sort of a big creative wing. He's a 4. He's probably not quite big enough to play a 5 and not fast enough to play a 3. So it's like limited positional versatility, but he can really pass. Like he's fun. He's a guy who I thought was going to be a first rounder when I first started sort of working the draft exercise, draft research stuff. I'm a novice. I kind of like get into it in March, right? I developed some strong opinions by the time we get to June, but like I wasn't aware of Oso last year when he was, at Marquette. So it's like he's new to me for the most parts. But like, I thought he was going to be a first round guy. And I think some folks, I know John Hollinger of The Athletic really likes him and thinks he's a first round talent. But for the most part, ESPN has him at 58. The Ringer has him at 40. Sam Vecini has him at 46 in his latest mock draft. He's like a second round guy. He's a target for the Blazers. They're at 34, 40 with their 2 second round picks. I kind of wonder what they'll do with those picks, right? Are they likely to take I think the most likely, just like knowing what we know about this team, is that they will take like deep flyers, right? They'll take like the Ryan Rupert types. They'll take Trenton Flowers from the NBL in Australia, and they'll say like, let's see if we can make it work. AJ Johnson, same type of thing. It's like players who are, highly recruited high school kids or young teenagers who aren't quite near their ceiling yet, but have like a lot of upside because they're so young and raw and all those things. That's like the sort of quintessential Blazers, right? Is that sort of Ryan Rupert, like, hey, he doesn't do a lot now, but you can watch him and think like if he puts it together and sort of sharpens some tools, he could have some stuff, right? He could have some stuff, but he doesn't have some stuff in the moment. I think that's like the most likely path that they go with 34 and 40, and they offer those guys 2-way contracts, or one of them a 2-way contract, and whoever they take at 34, a regular NBA contract, and they make some trades to free up the roster spot. I think that's the most likely route, right? Is you draft kind of like they take big upside swings in the second round because like why would you take players that are closer to a sure thing? But if they don't, and I think this is the curious thing that is there for him, like a lot of times second round guys, players who will slip to the second round are sort of your older college guys. They are the Kevin McCullough from Kansas. They are your Dylan Jones from Weber State. They're players who did spend some time in the NBA or in college basketball before coming to the NBA, before making that jump. They're guys who weren't good enough at 19 to make the jump to the league, and at 22 this is their path. And like, I don't think, and I don't want to paint it as such, that when you draft someone at 23 that they're like a finished product. They're just closer to what they're going to be. I think the most likely scenario for the Blazers is that they continue to kind of churn the way they've churned, which is go young. But I think there's a world in which you have 2 second-round picks, and you do draft guys who are 22, 23 years old who have come out of college a little bit because they're a little bit closer to productive, and because you're not trying to maybe hit, when you have 2 lottery picks, you don't have to hit the absolute home runs in the second round. The thing is, the Blazers need to hit a home run at some point somewhere in the next 2 drafts. If they do not hit a home run, the franchise is in trouble, right? They need to acquire a star over the next 2 years, or that star's already in the team and they need to materialize. But I think they have optionality with this draft. They can either go sheer upside, and I think like judging by who they've worked out, there's certainly been some guys who are maybe on that older side in this sort of Harrison Ingram range or realm. They're like, hey, this dude's a little bit older, probably doesn't have upside to be a star, and probably doesn't maybe have upside to be like a long-term NBA starter, but there might be a longer-term NBA role player, and what the Blazers need is sort of talent, right? I wonder, looking at this group of 37 guys on my spreadsheet, if they do end up drafting from this group, is it one of the sort of younger upside foreign players, or, guys who've been playing abroad, whether they're American or just playing abroad, and are foreign, or is it some of these older college guys? Is it an Oso Ighodaro because of like, hey, we don't think he's going to be, he's probably never going to be a starting power forward in the league, but the skill set is there. Just the sheer size is there to like, I think, this is like a dude you could run a ton of dribble handoffs with and is like a functional high IQ basketball player. I wonder where they go. I kind of have a guess where they go, but I think they've got a couple different paths they can choose. And because you have multiple picks, you can kind of play the puzzle as it comes up, right? Like you don't have to, how the board shakes out at 7-14 can inform what you do at 34 and 40. The Blazers are probably unlikely, with the draft next Wednesday. The Blazers are pretty first round next Wednesday, second round next Thursday. You listen to Friday, June 21st show. Like the Blazers are unlikely to host another draft workout next week. It's very unlikely that Monday or Tuesday they will have one. Maybe they'll do some private stuff over the weekend that we will only hear about through leaked reports. But I think this is the group, and I think now you lock it down and you have a week to figure out what they do. And there's going to be, hopefully for the sake of our intrigue, a lot of fireworks with either the Blazers or hopefully with the Blazers and among other teams on draft nights. The first little bit of fireworks, though, happened on freaking Thursday when the Bulls did something weird and Oklahoma City got better. Let's talk about that to close the show, because I think the trade that sent Alex Caruso to Oklahoma City has implications for the Blazers as they try to trade a 30-year-old guard here in the next coming weeks. Join me in that third segment, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. If you are hiring for your small business or your small businesses, you need to find quality candidates that fit the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They've got the tools to help you find those right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals. LinkedIn is the place that professional people are already sharing their resume and their bona fides and all of their sort of professional journey. It's where they already are. So go find them where they already are. It makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when they use LinkedIn to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Still a pass, first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I don't even know what to do with this information. The Chicago Bulls completed a trade today with Oklahoma City Thunder, in which the Oklahoma City Thunder sent 21-year-old Josh Giddey to Chicago in exchange for 30-year-old Alex Caruso. Josh Giddey wasn't good enough to play in the playoffs for the number one team in the West. Alex Caruso would play at the end of a playoff game for 27 teams in the NBA. It was a player-for-player trade. No picks, no nothing. Giddey for Caruso straight up. The first of trade season, the first of the offseason, and a major splash, quite frankly. Alex Caruso is really good, an all-defense type, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He's 30 years old. He's like not quite a point guard, but he's a little bit smaller, but he defends like hell. He's been part of a championship team with the Bubble Lakers. He is a very good winning basketball player that helps you win games. And Oklahoma City, who had the best record in the Western Conference, was able to acquire that player without giving up any of their war chest of draft picks in exchange for Josh Giddey, who is totally competent. He's fine. I'm not 100% sure he's an NBA starter. He has some skills. He can really pass. And he's got positional size, but nobody treats him like a shooting threat, even though he's improved as a shooter a lot since he's come into the league. And he lives off a steady diet of floaters, standstill threes and floaters. Doesn't hit free throws, doesn't get to the free throw line, and doesn't get treated like a shooter, but can really pass. An incredible inbound passer, an interesting connective piece. And at 21 years old, he certainly can get better, right? As I mentioned with the 23-year-olds in the draft, it's not like you're finished. You're just closer to what you're going to be. And instead of having this upside to grow and fill out all of the space is closer to filled out. And then you're sharpening the edges, right? You're probably not adding whole new pieces to the build. You are closer to the build and you are refining what it looks like. I think the range of reactions on this trade is something from the Bulls did not so great to terrible. The internet is vast. I'm sure you can find people who actually think the Bulls did really well. I think people love contrarian nonsense. So if you have an opinion that is contrarian nonsense, feel free to share it. Share it in the comment section below on YouTube. We thrive with contrarian nonsense here. To me, I think the Bulls the asking price at some point for Alex Caruso was reportedly multiple picks, right? Multiple first-round picks. And maybe you treat Giddey like a pick to some extent because he's 21, but that's not how it works because a draft pick is under contract for more years. Giddey is like not under contract. At some point, you're going to have to pay him. And it's coming up much faster. It's different calculation. Not the same thing. He is young and he could improve, sure. But I think, like, just generally speaking, I think the Bulls did poorly here because I think they could have gotten a lot more from Alex Caruso if they had acted sooner, right? Like, what were they doing at the trade deadline? They were chasing the play-in. Mission accomplished. They're just a team that's puzzling. I've said this before on the show. It's like when they were rumored to be one of the 3 teams along with Memphis and Portland that wanted to trade up to 3 to chase Donovan Clingan. I was like, it makes total sense for Memphis. I guess it makes sense for Portland because they're just in like the talent acquisition phase. I have no idea what the Bulls are doing. And here again, I have no idea what they're doing. This would be a signal, trading a 30-year-old winner for a 21-year-old with some upside, that they are entering another phase of a rebuild. But if they aim to win 38 games next year, it wouldn't surprise me one stinking bit. Wouldn't surprise me one stinking bit. So what does this have to do with the Blazers, Michael? Are you just here to make fun of the Bulls? You spent this whole third segment just being mean to the poor team in Chicago? Yes, that's my plan. No, I think this has real implications, unfortunately, for the Blazers. Usually, and it's not always how it works, and I'll expand on this in a second. It's not always how it works. But usually, during these sort of like cycles, right? Trade deadline, draft, and then like maybe deep into the summer when there's another sort of round of trades once the dust settles. During these cycles, the asking price kind of gets set for certain types of assets and certain assets. And then it's like, that's what you got for Terry Rozier? Interesting. That's the going rate for like a scoring combo guard. Oh, that's what it costs to get a Rudy Gobert. Like that's what it costs to get a high level defensive player on the team, a cajillion draft picks and a bunch of young pieces. Like, and it kind of sets the market, right? And it sets the market. And it's like with the Rudy Gobert trade, it's like it kind of jacked up the market. And it was like, nah, I'm not trading the good player for a while. Like unless I'm getting the Rudy Gobert haul, like I don't want to get back in there. And then I think like things maybe got reset a little bit with the sort of what the James Harden and Damian Lillard trades look like because of their circumstances, right? And again, the circumstances will color things. Not every team is the Bulls. They're going to want different things. Other, teams have different path that they prefer. But the Bulls not acquiring a single pick, be it a second rounder or more surprisingly, like some sort of protected first rounder from the future from OKC, again, who has the Thunder have a cajillion draft picks in the upcoming drafts. They just have more than they could possibly use. At some point, they got to trade them for something, right? Trading a 30-year-old productive guard for the price of one Josh Giddey is not good if you're the Portland Trail Blazers trying to trade a 30-year-old productive guard named Malcolm Brogdon. It's not good. If that is the market setter, if that's the thing that sets the price, the way that I think in some ways the Terry Rozier trade at the trade deadline kind of set the asking price, that you'd say, okay, if that's what Terry Rozier gets, we want something similar for Malcolm Brogdon. And it's like, if that's what Alex Caruso gets, who's better, like more impactful on winning than Malcolm Brogdon. They're very different players, but I would say like if you were trying to win a game in the playoffs, I would much rather have Alex Caruso than Malcolm Brogdon. Your mileage may vary there. Contrarian opinions welcome, but like, I think I was pretty adamant that the Blazers needed to trade Malcolm Brogdon at the trade deadline, and whether they were unable to or unwilling to because the offers weren't any good, or that they and whether that's misreading the market or trying to time out the market better in the summertime. The market in the summertime does not appear to be a lot better, at least from first blush. Not every trade is the same. Not every trade negotiation is the same. Not every team is the Chicago Bulls. The Blazers probably can do better, and the sort of, I think the reporting and the obvious speculation is that if the Blazers do trade Malcolm Brogdon, what they are likely to hope to return is like a mid-range first-round pick, right? It's like some sort of pick that's going to land in the 20s, and I think that's a pretty reasonable guess, right? You get a pick in the 20s, you get it right, you save the franchise. Simple as that. But if that was the asking rate, and then this is like, hey, Alex Caruso doesn't get a pick. You just get a player to make the money work who's a little bit younger in Josh Giddey. If that's the reset of the market, that's bad news for the Blazers. And what you can do is you can blame the Bulls. I don't know if it's going to play out like that, but I do worry that it might. I do worry that the Caruso trade, someone who's a kind of a hot name to be traded, bandied about in trade talks as the Bulls kind of shift to what's next. If the going rate for a player of Alex Caruso's caliber is Josh Giddey, what's the going rate for Malcolm Brogdon? It doesn't. This is the danger of waiting. This is the danger of patience. Patience can be a real virtue, but there is when you walk down a narrower path, you do have more of a balancing act to sort of navigate. That's just the truth of it. And the Blazers didn't know the Bulls were going to do this nonsense, but they did, and it may have impacted what they can do if they try or trade Malcolm Brogdon, which I think we all speculate that they will and should sometime in the coming weeks. Perhaps Malcolm Brogdon helps reset the trade market. Perhaps we laugh at the Bulls because the Blazers get a haul for what Malcolm Brogdon is. But I don't think day one was a good step in that direction. Okay. That is going to do it for shows this week. I am going to be out of town this weekend, and I'm going to travel back to this fair city of Portland, Oregon on Monday evening. That means that there's not going to be a Monday show waiting for you in your feeds on Monday morning because I'm going on a real vacation. I'm not taking the podcast studio with me. I'm still aiming to do 5 shows next week, but Monday's show may be a little bit late. So look for it in your feeds, but Monday evening, or if you're on the East Coast, like real late at night, Monday nights, look for that. But I'm still aiming to do 5 next week. It's just going to be a little bit delayed, but it's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the show. Next week is the freaking NBA draft, a fun week, and probably some much needed clarity about what's next for the Blazers. I can't wait for it. This time next week, the draft will be done and we'll know what's next, or at least what has to be next for the Blazers. Fascinating week ahead. Tell your friends so they can hop on board and have fun. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.